What is up, everybody? Today I want to talk about parsing in MSV and just give you some tips and tricks that you can do in order to maximize your damage. Now, if you really want to parse at the high end, then some of those tips and tricks are just ignore mechanics and attack the boss. So I'll try to tell you everything that is in between, fully griefing your raid and actually doing the mechanics. Okay, let's start off with the first boss in the Stone Guard. Now, for this fight, your talents are, it kind of depends how you're playing the fight. Again, this fight, if you want to parse, is literally stand still, dot up the four bosses, and then mind sear. That's really it. If that's what you're doing, then I would recommend going PI and Mindbender. Mindbender does a lot of damage, and it's just one global cooldown to get that damage, and then PI is really strong on the pull. Now, if you're someone who's going to be painting down along the side, I would recommend FDCL. And the reason I would do that is because while you're painting down the side, you can use globals for movement of your Mind Spike, of your Shadow Word Pain. And I think that's going to be the best use of your abilities while you're on the move. So let's get into the fight because I do take FDCL here. This isn't my best parse on this fight, but I forgot to record my best parse, so I apologize for that. I don't do this fight particularly perfectly. So the first thing I do is I dot up with Vampiric Touch because I want to get those Mind Spike charges as fast as I can. Now, if you look at my character here, or on my screen, these two purple glowy things represent my two Mind Spike charges. So when I have those, I know I can cast Mind Spike. I do run, as I'm running out here, I do cast Halo. Halo is really good if you're 20 to 30 yards from your target and you can hit all four, which I am going to do here. And then I boots to make this as fast as possible to paint. I don't do a particularly good job of casting while on the move. But I should have been better about making sure I had my Mind Spikes ready to go, and then dotting up Shadow Word Pain after I used those two Mind Spikes. After that, it really just comes down to standing still and DPSing and mind searing. And that's kind of the annoying thing about this fight is that if you're trying to help your raid as much as possible, you're kind of telling yourself that also you're not going to parse that well. I will say on I forget what my current parse is on this fight. I think it's around top 10 for priests. I did paint 2 times. So like I still painted 2 times. I think I might have clicked the crystals 3 times, but one of the times I just kind of sat there with the debuff ticking on me because I was trying to pump. But the only other thing I would say about this fight is make sure you have boss frames. Boss frames are going to be really handy. I have LVUI and I have customizable boss frames here. You can use shadow unit frames. I think there's some weak auras that track them too. This is going to be really good for when you're dotting up the ads or the individual bosses. You can see I use it here. Let me move my actual mouse right now. But you can see I'm using my mouse to select each different guardian. Now, the only other thing I'll say on that is if you have Mouseover Macros, you don't even need to click these individual frames. You can just hover your mouse over Cobalt Guardian, start dotting, it'll dot that one. Hover over Jade Guardian and start dotting, it'll dot that one as well. So Mouseover Macros can be extremely powerful here. We all stack in for the explosions that go off when they all reach 100 energy. And then we come back and do it again and start painting. I'm trying to stutter step my way over to the crystals to go paint again. I'm not rushing it. I think that's the important thing if you're painting and trying to do damage at the same time is don't rush it. Take your time. Make sure you have Mind Spike charges. Make sure that as you're running, you're dotting up Shadow Word Pain if the Guardians need it. I think if you really just make sure to maintain dots as best as you can, try to cast on the move as much as you can. I think you actually can do really decently here, even if you are painting. Anyway, let's go on to Feng. Now, Feng is a pure single target fight. The way to think about this fight is twofold. There's two really important things other than your single target here. One is going to be your movement. So where are you positioned relative to the different phases that you're going to do to minimize the amount that you have to move throughout the fight. And then 2 is making sure you can snipe one of the ads, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So when it comes to movement, the thing is, we're going to start, the first phase is going to be to the right of my character here. The next phase is going to be to the left of my character here. And then the third phase is going to be in the top left corner here. So I'm positioned in between the first 2 phases because for phase 1, at some point, we're going to want to stack in the middle. And then for phase 2, we're going to want to stack on the boss, which is right here. So I have my character as close to these 2 points as I can be, just on the pull without, standing on other people because we want to stay spread out. So that's the important part. Just think about where you're positioning to start the fight just to minimize the amount of time you have to spend running. And then this is really just a test of how good are you at the single target rotation. So I'm just going to fast forward until we get the ads because that's the only other thing to really min-max other than your movement on this fight. So when we get to this phase here, we're going to get the ads that spawn from the shield. Now you should absolutely just ignore these. Let your warriors passive cleave them, your DKs with their dots cleave them, like just don't touch them. Until one of them gets below 20% HP, then you should snipe a shadow or death. So you can see right here, I'm targeting one. I only have 2 shadow orbs. That's represented by this weak orb here and then the 2 on the orb here. So I only have 2 orbs and my mind blast is on cooldown. So I shadow or death and then I go back to Feng and I'm just going to go right back into my rotation. So that shadow or death did 2 things. It generated me a shadow orb and it proc twist to fate. So now I'm just going to do a juiced up devouring plague into Feng and then go into my rotation. That's all you should be doing on the ads. That is going to boost your damage. And the thing is, on a pure single target fight, you have to do anything you can in order to boost your damage. I didn't talk about talents. This is just straight single target setup. I'll have the talents posted for each fight as we go into them at the start of each fight. But yeah, that's really it. Is just trying to minimize your movement, making sure you take advantage of any ads that spawn with a shadow or death. We'll see. I do a shadow or death here again, I believe. We'll just wait to watch this out. There we go. I'm targeting one, shadow or death, boom, back to the boss. That's it. That's really it. The only other thing when it comes to movement is for the third phase, we go over here. I wait so that, what do? I boot and then I shadow word paint on the move. So it basically takes me 1 global to move there and I use that global by shadow word painting. That's probably the best thing you can do if you need to move a large distance. All right, that's it. Let's go to the next fight. Okay, so the next fight is Garajal, and this is actually going to be very similar to Feng, where it's a single target fight with some ads that we can take advantage of. Now, as of recording this, the ads in the spirit phase count, and that's going to be really important for your parse. If you're not someone who's going down, then you can think of the totems that spawn as being the same as the ads on Feng. Attacking the totems doesn't help your parse, like they don't count towards your overall damage. But what you can do is you can proc twist to fate and you can use shadow or death on them to generate an orb. So they are valuable from that perspective. So this is just a single target rotation. What I do here is I dot up the spirit totem. I wanted it to die a little bit faster, but then I also wanted to proc twist to fate. Now, I'm not sure if the dot is necessarily worth it, but that was just to help lower its health faster so that I could get twist of fate from the totem. Once the totem gets below 20% HP, I snipe a shadow or death on it. And again, that gets me an orb that procs twist of fate again, and I can go back to the boss. Now, again, if you're not going down, that's going to be the most important thing to maximize your damage, is just trying to get an extra orb or 2 through shadow or deathing the spirit totems. Now, the most important thing for parsing on this fight is really if you're going down to the spirit realm. We wait pretty late into the fight, so you can see he's at 35% HP, and we only send a group down once. So the thing is, you're going to see my halo here, because there's going to be so many ads, is going to be giga. This halo is massive. So let's see, we're about to go down right here. Again, I snipe a shadow or death. You might as well if you're going down. Okay. This is annoying because this is in the way. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll make it a little bit more clear. I am 11th on the meters at 130k DPS. This is okay. You know what? Screw Windows Media Player. I'm going to swap out of this. Okay, we're back. Now we don't need to deal with anything in the way of the meters. So again, I am 11th on the meters at 130k DPS. Watch what happens from one Halo with this many ads. Okay, Halo goes out. It's hit everything. I'm at 152k. So my damage jumped up 20k, or my DPS jumped up 20k. That's insane. Now, when you first start attacking the ads, you need to think about who you're going down with, because if you're going down with like 2 or 3 Ellie Shamans, these ads are going to die fast, which in my opinion, I think makes Mindseer a lot more valuable than dotting up ads at least immediately, because your dots can always get value from anything that's alive. But if you're dotting targets and then they die pretty quickly after, then you didn't really get a ton of value from those dots. So what I do here is I Mindseer this big clump first, and then I actually realized that things are dying pretty slow. I think one of our Ellie Shaman's turtle here had the, what's it called? the voodoo doll. So he couldn't come down, but we didn't realize that at the time. So we had one less DPS than we were supposed to come down. So once I realized they're dying slow, I just started dotting up everything. And then here it's just dot up everything. Now, something to be careful about is if you're only doing Shadow Word Pain, your mana actually can get pretty low because you restore mana through Vampiric Touch. So that's just something to be cautious about. I do realize this, and I throw out like 1 or 2 Vampiric Touches before we come up. But also, I realize my Shadow Fiend is going to be ready in 20 seconds. So mana's not really an issue, but it's just something that was funny that I noticed that if I casted a few more Shadow Word Pains, I would actually be in a pretty rough spot at the moment. But actually, I guess I do get mana back pretty quickly because I do have VTs ticking on the ads down below. But then that's it. Make sure that you're maximizing your rotation as much as possible. And then you can see I started at 130k before going down to the ads, and now I'm at 168. So it's kind of insane the amount of damage you get from going down. And then, of course, you have the buff on your character, which I believe is this icon here. For 30 seconds, that gives you increased damage and haste on the boss once you come out of the Spirit Realm. And then GG, you do 170k DPS just like that. It's easy, see? Okay, let's go to Spirit Kings. So Spirit Kings, really every fight here is just, single target talents. The thing about Spirit Kings is there's so much movement. You want to try to figure out how can you move as little as possible. So anytime you move, you want to be able to plant yourself and then just try to not move again for at least 20 to 30 seconds. So basically, if you can do a full like 3 orb generation, a full Mind Flay Insanity window without having to move, that's going to be perfect. Let's fast forward. I guess we take our sweet time here. Okay. So on the pull, it's single target. Nothing really matters until 30%. We do Lust on pull, and I mass the spell there. You're a priest. You're going to have to mass the spell. It's just kind of part of the job. Once you have 2 bosses out at the same time, there's a few things that are really important. 1, maintaining dots on everything. 2 is going to be maximizing Shadow or Death casts. Again, maximizing orb generation is going to be super important. And actually, if you want to really parse on this fight, you don't want to be attacking the low mob. The low mob gives you Twisted Fate uptime. He gives you extra Shadow Orbs from Shadow or Death. You don't want him to die immediately. You actually want to be sending your Devouring Plagues and your big single target damage into the second ad, into Subutai, not into Kiang. And I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, so I apologize. I hope I don't offend anyone. Anyway, you really want to make sure that this guy dies as slow as possible, and your dots are ticking on him for as long as possible, and you're really only casting Shadow or Death on him otherwise. That's going to help you maximize your Twisted Fate uptime and your orb generation throughout the fight. And that's going to be true anytime there's 2 mobs to attack at the same time. Now, I don't really do that. There might be a few times where I cast my Devouring Plague on the high health target and I go into Mind Flay Insanity. For the most part, I do attack the low HP target. I'm not really one to grief my raid a ton. And I don't know that it's really griefing your raid. I mean, the boss is going to die immediately, but and then movement. So you can see how I did just do a big move there and it probably wasn't necessary, but now I'm just going to plant here. And I'm thinking about, do I need to dot these arrows? If you dot the arrows, it's good for your damage. I think the arrows count for your parse. I'm not sure, honestly, I could be wrong there. But ideally you don't really get arrows anyway. And now I'm just going to sit here and single target to my heart's content. I do kind of move around a little bit, but that's just during instant casts. I just kind of have a problem doing that. I stop for a little bit, sleight of hand, blah, blah, blah. That's really it. I think maximizing your dot uptime, maximizing Shadow or Death cast, and Twisted Fate uptime is really your bread and butter here. Again, single target talents, you can run FDCL if you enjoy that playstyle, but it's just going to be less damage than Insanity. And that's also going to be true for Will of the Emperor when we get there. All right, so that's this fight in a nutshell. The only other thing I'd say is that for the skulls that spawn, the little shadowy dudes that pulse AoE, it's good to throw dots on them and then just kind of ignore them. Again, good targets to snipe Shadow or Death on, but if you have a boss that's low HP, you'd rather Shadow or Death that target. They just probably have more debuffs on it, like Curse of Elements and that type of stuff. So you'll just do more damage per hit attacking the boss than you would on the ad. But again, ignoring the ads griefs your raid a little bit. So kind of pick and choose how you want to grief your raid if you're trying to maximize your damage. All right, let's go to Elegon. Elegon here, again, single target talents, but we're going to use Cascade instead of Halo. That's really the main difference. Okay, on pull, just, you know, attack your boss, do your thing, do that thing. Once the big Celestial Protector comes in, you can dot him up, but then just go right back to attacking the boss. The annoying thing here is I think I die, actually. I think this is a really good part for me, but I die in the beginning. The reason is twofold. One, my stacks get a little bit high. They're not super high. But Elegon has some ability where he targets 2 random raid members and it deals 100k damage to them. But with the damage amp from the debuff, it does like 270k damage to me. So I die, which sucks, but I'm only dead for a few seconds. The funny thing is I was supposed to soak for the first Celestial Protector explosion, but I convinced one of our hunters to do it for me. So I was like, oh, nice. I get to save time because I don't need to run out and soak, but I just die anyway. So it's probably a pretty similar loss. It's probably more of a loss because I have to redo my buffs. I lose my food buff. So see right here, yep, I'm dead. Nobody else even got, like, I guess a few people are at half HP. I just got super unlucky, but I'm back up. I get my buffs up. The thing that really hurts me is when these charges spawn, I haven't casted Cascade. I haven't casted Mindseer. So this could have been a 200k plus parse. You know, it is what it is. It's not a huge deal. It's just a little annoying. I just got RNG'd pretty hard there. But the most important thing is going to pre-Cascade and pre-Mindseer. And I'll talk about that when I actually do it correctly. You can see I'm Mindseering literally no numbers. I didn't hit anything with this Mindseer. So this first wave, I got fucked pretty hard by dying. And I'm just like, well, this sucks. Anyway, I run over to my space just to make sure that I have good line of sight on the ad. I run out to refresh. Oh, when it comes to stepping out to reset your CD, I do it every other set of orbs. So basically every 2 sets of orbs, I will run out. And usually when I run out, I'm just like casting a Shadow Word Pain on the boss. You don't lose much uptime at all. So the important thing here is at around 1 second left on draw power, this is the perfect time to cast Cascade. You can see I'm pressing it here. That's what this weak aura is tracking right here. I'm pressing my Cascade even though I'm on the global cooldown. And then I go right into Mindseer. Since Cascade has travel time, even though there's a second left on this cast, by the time it hits Elegon, the ads will have spawned. So it's great to cast just before the ads spawn, and then you go right into Mindseer. So I'm going to cast Cascade here once the global cooldown is ready, and then I'm going to go into Mindseering. So my Cascade, it's like right here in the middle. It's already flying. It's kind of hard to see. And now I'm Mindseering. Boom. And there's so many numbers. It's insane. Just for reference, if we look at my damage on the meters, so you can see how much damage I just did there in a short window, I'm at 173k on the meters, 17th. And now I'm 195k and 11th. So you can see getting off a good Cascade, getting off an early Mindseer as the ads are spawning is giga damage. So it sucks so much that I missed the first wave because I was dead. But that's part of the game, you know? So you can see just from that demonstration, that is going to be insane damage. You're not going to have Cascade up for every wave, and especially the waves get faster as it goes on. So like you can see here, I still have 9 seconds on my CD as he's spamming. So, you know, just get ready to Mindseer. And how you parse is going to depend on your raid, right? How far can you push the ads before the boss transitions to phase 2? Or if you want a giga parse, can you just kill the boss without ever transitioning, without the orbs ever connecting to one of these pillars? That's just the name of the game, because you're going to be doing giga damage to the ads. Of course, Elegon gets more damage taken for every set of orbs that you kill. So your DPS just goes up and up and up. And if you never have to do the intermission where the pillars come up and the little circular ad spawn and all that jazz, you're going to do so much more damage. Your parts are going to be so much higher than if you do have to go into that. I think we can get the boss to about 40% before anything connects. We might make one more wave. Yeah, I think you can see this is the wave where everything, I guess we have let some orbs get through. Oh no, okay, this is what it was. We agreed to let the orbs get through and I was just padding. So I don't know if damage on the orbs counts if they don't die, but I was just padding with Mindseer there. So I guess that makes up for me missing the first set of waves. It is griefing the raid a little bit, but I mean, it's not like we were going to kill Elegon here. before getting into this phase anyway, so it doesn't really matter for anything. And then if you do get this phase, you know, double dot all the pillars, maximize your shadow or deaths if one gets low. That's really it. The only other thing I'll say is something I do here is I have 2 orbs currently in my shadow or death, or I'm sorry, my mind blast about to come off cooldown. I'll cast a mind blast onto one of these sparks just to have 3 orbs. Like I just did that right there. Your damage on these sparks doesn't count, so you should just ignore them and let them die passively to your warriors cleaving, your death knights cleaving, whatever it might be. Don't attack them unless you're generating an orb or casting a shadow or death or something. That's really it. That's the only reason to attack them. All right, let's go to Will the Emperor. And we wipe a few times here. Let me find, is this the kill? Okay, that's the kill. So Will of the Emperor here, single target talents. Again, you can run FDCL if you want. It's going to be less damage than running Insanity, assuming you're multi-dotting well. To start the fight, you can maximize your damage on the strengths that spawn in the beginning. What I do is I'll dot the one that I'm not attacking. So if you really want to maximize this, before this guy jumps down, you should feather yourself. And you can target him when he's up above. So you feather yourself, you target the strength, you double dot, and then you move over to the next strength that you're actually going to kill. Why does this screen keep messing up? I don't know. But I Shadow Word Pained, and then I Devouring Plagued, Mind Flay Insanity, and then Shadow Word Death. If you're lucky, you can snipe a Shadow Word Death on the other target, which I do here, because that one died slower than ours. So it just kind of depends on your side's DPS. Something you can also do is on these sparks, you can cast a Mind Blast on them to get orbs. Again, your damage to them doesn't count for your parse, but you can get an orb. So you might as well, because there's nothing else to do. We kill the Courages. I just stack up behind here to just cast a Devouring Plague into him. And then I Mind Blast, Mind Flay Insanity, Shadow or Death. So I have 2 orbs from that guy. I do the same thing with these strengths, double dot them. Doesn't really matter a whole amount. Something with these ads, or the bosses, until they do their little bow thing, they don't have a threat table. So if you dot them early, so until they do this little kneeling thing or the bow right here, their threat table isn't active. So if I had dotted these earlier, it's possible you can get threats just because of the wonkiness of their threat tables. So if you're going to do that, just pre-fade. Fades off the GCD. It doesn't cost you anything to cast it. So just cast fade and then start dotting up the bosses. We lust here, right, as the ads are walking down. The most important thing here is maintaining dots on everything, Mind Blasting on cooldown, Shadow or Deathing on cooldown, if you can, maintaining Twisted Fate uptime. This is another fight where I really recommend boss frames. I use them a lot, especially when I'm targeting one of the strengths to attack them. I can just use my boss frames here to, to dot them up. Now, something, I don't know if you just noticed this, I just casted Halo, but it was the Holy version and not the Shadow version. So something that can happen if you swap between Cascade and Halo is that sometimes, if you look on my bars right here, you can see it's actually the Holy version. It's not like the purple version. Sometimes you have to exit Shadow form and re-enter for it to be the Shadow version of it. So this Halo actually takes me out of Shadow form. So you can see no Shadow form. This weak aura pops up and you can see this Holy Halo, and it wasn't, and I was in Shadow form. I promise you that. So that kind of griefed me a little bit. And I think this was like a rank 4. I think I missed rank 1 by like 1,000 DPS. So I don't think it would have been from this. Like I don't know that I would have gained 1,000 DPS had I not lost Shadow form here. But it does kind of suck that happened. So again, the most important thing is maximizing dot uptime, maximizing orb generation, maximizing Twisted Fate uptime. When the strengths come out, I double dot both, pick mine to focus on. I make sure I use my boss frames to focus on the bosses. Again, the best thing about Shadow Priest is that you can cast dots on things behind you, to the side of you. You don't need to face them. So I just use my boss frames to redot the ads, and then I go back into my strength. Something I should be better at is noticing when my first set of dots fall off this strength, I should probably redot the other strength if it's in range of me. I don't think I do that here. That's something I should be better at to make sure you always have your 4 sets of dots rolling. And I should be better at noticing that my Shadow Word Paint fell off the bosses here. You can see I'm actually doing that right now. Right after I redotted the strength, I'm putting Vampiric Touch on the bosses now. I think maintaining your dots takes priority over doing single target to the ads. I think me turning my camera there was to check if the other strength was still alive. If it was, I was going to dot it up, but it's already dead. So I'm just maintaining dots here. I'm making sure I get my Shadow Word Deaths off. You can try to get a Shadow Word Pain and a Vampiric Touch on the Courage. Before he lifts his shield, he's not immune to damage from the front. So you can do a quick Shadow Word Pain there. But then I just go straight back to the bosses. I'm just using my boss frames to attack. Oh, I'm soaking this thing, the Spark, which is why I wasn't single targeting the bosses at all there. So just maximize your dot uptime. Make sure that you have dots on both strengths if they're available. Make sure you're maintaining your dots on the bosses. And GG, you know, cast Shadow or Death if the strengths are low. If you have a Courage that's behind you, or like you're behind him so that you can cast Shadow or Death and his HP is low, make sure you take advantage of that. This fight is really just all about your dot management, your Twisted Fate uptime management, and generating Shadow Orbs. I mean, that's what most fights are. But on this fight, because you have so many targets, your dots become so much more important than they are on other fights. Anyway, that's about all I got for you for this guide. I hope this helps you. I hope this allows you to pump, do some pretty good damage. And no, I'm not a huge parser myself. I like doing big damage. I think it's fun. But at the end of the day, I care more about progression and making sure we have clean, fun raids. So I'm never going to do anything to grief my raid, at least too hard. So I hope you don't do anything that causes wipes, but you at least show them that Shadow Priest can pump, especially when played by a baller gamer like yourself. Anyway, that's all I got for you in this one, and I will see you in the next one with Heart of Fear. Hopefully, I can get you a guide on parsing that in a week or two. Anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.